Hi, and thanks for tuning in to episode 13 of Off the Rails with me, Claire. And I have a really interesting guest today who just happens to be my husband, Francisco. I'll introduce him in 1 second, but the topic we're going to go and do a deep dive on today is actually around digital marketing. And that would be something that I think is quite interesting, has a broad scope, and obviously it's definitely where marketing is heading right now. So for those that either know around digital marketing, we're going to go through a deep dive today. And if you're a little bit on the outskirts like I am and want to know even what it means, then today is definitely going to be a good episode. So welcome, Francisco, to my podcast.
Thanks for the invitation.
You're very welcome. Okay, so first of all, I guess what will be a good question is, what does a digital marketer, I should say, do? So what does your job entail, and what does, give us an idea of your day-to-day role? What does it look like?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because, that's digital marketing is a really broad scope. So you have loads of skills that you can be applied to digital marketing. So inside digital marketing, you need to choose like one of those scopes. So what I do now, I focus just on paid advertising, just on the paid media, and then read the data from those campaigns. So yeah, in my scope of work, I focus just on the paid media and data analytics side of the business. But if you look at the digital marketing overall, you can look. First, you need to really understand what your client, or where your client is, who your client is. Let me rephrase. I think it's really important to know who you target with your message, and then after that, you can choose your channels, you can choose the type of marketing you can do, and so forth. But yeah, it's a really broad scope, digital marketing.
Okay, so then we stay in the realm of what's kind of valid for you. So in the paid marketing area, you also, to give the listeners a bit of a better understanding, you specifically work right now in the wine industry. For the last few years, that's been your kind of target. And very apt as we live in Porto. So yeah, it's something that I think you kind of not only, through your work, but also professionally, personally, it's something that you have a lot of interest in. So do you think there's something within the wine industry that's unique and quite different from, a different industry, say fashion or something like that? What do you think is the real difference? What's the real niche when it comes to wine?
Yeah, first of all, wine is a really high regulated industry. So you can sometimes, depends where your marketing activities are, you can have loads of issues on the digital marketing side of things because, for instance, US, that's where most of my work is. There's some states that you cannot advertising wine on Google Ads or Facebook Ads. So you need, or there's a specific age that you can advertise. So in the wine industry, you have that specific kind of regulation that becomes really tricky to advertise. So I think that the most differentiation thing is the regulation.
Yeah, I didn't actually think of that. It's very obvious for obvious reasons because of age limitations, and obviously it's alcohol. So yeah, that makes sense. So there's limitations, first of all, I guess, which is a hurdle and something that you have to get around to make sure that you're still reaching your consumer, to target the right consumer that doesn't upset the regulations, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So digital marketing, you're in the paid area, you're in the wine industry. So tell me about when you go to do a paid marketing campaign. What does it look like to actually develop the content around that? What does that look like? How do you approach that, you and the team that you work with? Talk us through that.
Yes, but so the most important thing is, like, what's the objective of the campaign? Is the awareness, or is sales, like conversions? Because they're two different things. So if you just are to increase awareness in those campaigns, you just focus on the message of that campaign, and then after the message, you focus on the creative side, on the picture, what kind of message you want to get through with that image, basically. So when it's more focused on awareness, you can be a bit more creative, but when you focus on sales, you need to be creative also, but you need to have like a really kind of direct message to convert the prospect into a client. So the message has to be more strong and more straight, and the call to action needs to be also really strong in order to convert these prospects. And it's just basically, I have like a really high input with the creative team, and I just give my analysis, like what the consumer looks like, and after that they just develop with the client also, because the client has a word to say in the end, and then we develop the strategy around with that client in mind.
Yeah, so like you take the action, you've got the creative department which has the vision, then it's up to you to kind of make sure that, like you say, whether it's targeting from a sales point of view, and let's take that as an example. If it is sales targeted, then it's your responsibility to make sure that lands with the consumer and translate the creative side into an actionable ROI, which, for those listening that don't know, return of invest. So obviously you're investing a certain amount of money for the company that you're working for, as an example, and that has to make a certain amount of from that invest, you want a return on your money, which is for any business to actually succeed. So speaking on that, I think sometimes the voice of a marketer and that department in general is super strong, because creativity, I come from a world of creativity, and I think sometimes you want something in your head, but how that actually lands is quite different. To you have almost kind of like what's the best way of putting it? It's almost it doesn't translate into something tangible. So for a marketer, I think that's where you have to lean on, okay, your idea versus the reality of how this is going to land with the consumer. And then you're also in the middle trying to translate what the owner, like you said, that part of it of, okay, well, we own the product, we need it to land a certain way. And then you've got a creative department working a certain way. And then you've got to almost balance the two sides to make sure that it is actually going to work and it's actually going to do what the intent was, which was to, translate into sales. So it's a complex role. You've also got to be good at communication and good at translating. And also, I'd imagine, good at having those tough conversations of, okay, well, this is what's in your head, but actually this is what's proven, this is how it will work, and this is how we can translate.
You need a lot of data also. You need to rely on the data on the previous campaigns, and just not based on what is pleasant in terms of statics or in terms of message, but you need to rely a lot of data. And getting back to the process, you need to create a lot of creative, a lot of message. You test it, and then you read the data, and then you just like scale those campaigns that have a better data. And sometimes the client doesn't like what the message and the creative looks like, but that's what converts. And then numbers don't lie, so you need to just rely on that.
100%. On that, with like one good thing I think that anybody listening, and I as well, have an interest in is, okay, you've got the brief, you're translating that, you're looking at historical data, you're also looking at putting a new spin on it to make sure that, again, it translates into sales. How do you actually track and report on those metrics? So throughout the month or however long the campaign is running for, how do you track that? And then what is your way of giving that feedback back to the client or whatever it may be in that instance?
Sure. So you have like different data points, and right now digital marketing is going through a process that is really hard to have all the data points translated to what's really happening, because you have lots of cookies that are being vanished, like pixels that cannot track the client, what the client is doing or the prospect is doing. So, but you would just have to go back and forth. For example, if you launch a campaign on a Facebook ads, you just read the data there, but the data there is not the same data as you will see on Google Analytics side. So it's a bit tough right now, but you need to make like the data is not 100% correct, but you can have the feeling, or you can see what's working on what's not, but the data is not 100% correct. So yeah, to answer your question is you have like different data points, and then you just can put all together and you start seeing, okay, that this makes sense, this does make sense, and then you filter from there. But it's a bit tough right now to read all the data points.
Yeah, I get that, but I know what you mean. You get a sense, you get an understanding of the direction of what's working and what's not, and then it's kind of a bit of a guess in the realm of everything. One thing that I notice about marketing, and it's often something that when you're in a meeting, I've been there, done that, and sometimes you don't like to ask certain questions, but obviously I'm going to ask them right now. There's a lot of acronyms. One we just touched on, which was ROI, return of invest. There's also SEO and SEM. What do those two stand for?
Yeah, so SEO is search engine optimization. Basically, is when you write, for example, a blog that you want to do, those type of customers land your website. You just write articles based on the questions that this client or this prospect wants to get answered, and depends where in each stage of the funnel it is, you write articles for that. For example, if I want to find the best restaurant in Porto, for instance, I'm going to type top 10 best restaurants in Porto. So when I know that this client is looking for this type of information, I'm going to write article based on that top the top 10 restaurants in Porto. And then yeah, that's SEO. So you are just writing articles to feed the need for this information. And SEM is focused on the paid Google ads, basically. So you are just creating you are creating campaigns with the keywords for the answers that this type of people are asking for. For example, best shoes to run. So I'm gonna just create a campaign, focus on these keywords to answer the needs for this type of client.
Okay.
That's the separation. Sometimes it's a bit overlaps, but it's more like but let's put that way, SEO is more like on the organic side, and SEM is more on the paid side of things.
So it's more kind of direct, more yeah,
direct.
okay, get that. And then so marketing and kind of a bit of a step change now. Marketing and the world of marketing has changed, from paid marketing to when you think about billboards, you think about television adverts marketing, and like the world in general, it's moved dramatically fast, I think, throughout the last 5 years. What's your experience, I would say, with the speed of marketing and the direction it's going in? How do you personally stay updated with the latest digital marketing trends and like the algorithm trends? Like, tell me a little bit about that. Again, I'm looking from an outsider's perspective looking in, and I, as a consumer, can see the changes. I have a little bit of experience being in the industry that I was in fashion buying and working with marketers. But, I'm still, as I say, looking on the outside in. From your experience as a specialist in this area, what have been the biggest changes, and how do you keep updated with them?
Yeah, the biggest change right now is privacy. So yeah, you like for example, 5 years ago you had more data than we have now. So that's the biggest change, because now there's so many tracking issues and privacy issues that you cannot track the full journey of the customer. That's the biggest change. And how you adapt, like technology always adapts, always changes, and then you have to adapt. And as a consumer, and I can see what's going on around me, so I just try to put like other people's shoes, and then, okay, if I don't want to be tracked, what's the solution for that? And then I keep up with the latest news, like, and then you have to study again to the new way of doing things. And basically you just have to adapt. You have to study, you have to practice what's going on, and then you just evolve from there. There is no other way to do that.
Yeah, and obviously knowing you in the in-depth way that I do, you are somebody that is very self-taught. You're always learning. It's something that I try and adopt from you. I'm not as good, but every time I go in, you're in the study and you're like, I'm just learning, I'm upskilling, I'm doing a short course. It's something that you are incredibly passionate about. I know that. I see it firsthand. Is there any tips that you would give anybody in the marketing world or that wants to get into it, through being, obviously you've learned your skill the way you have, but as I say, it's that sharpening that you keep doing all the time to make sure that you are, in line, ahead of the game as much as possible. Any specific platforms, any tips that you would give to kind of keep yourself in updated and in the loop?
Yeah, I guess like the best platform for me is YouTube. Follow the right people in this industry. There's loads of gimmick stuff also on YouTube, but there's some like really good people that they are passionate about what they do, and then they give you like the information for free. I think that's the where I get most of my information from. But you just need to follow the right people. um yeah, I think is like, and then just follow what for example, Google is always trying to upskill people. So they launch new courses, they launch new documentation, and then just have to read and try to keep up with the news from these platforms, because in the end of the day they created the products, so they know better what they are doing. And yeah, I think is the best you can do to upskill you.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to know about is around about kind of the future of marketing. We touched on very lightly the big changes that have happened over the last 5 years, let's say. But where do you see the future of digital marketing going? One thing that is a very hot topic at the moment is AI. I think it's a little bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. Some people are kind of scared, threatened by it, and like, it's going to take over from human people as we know it, human jobs as we know it. I use it personally for certain things. I find certain AI tools really, really helpful. The efficiency is there; it's great, but I do get the other side of it, as to the fear of how good it actually is, how accurate it is a little bit scary. So yeah, on that, where do you see the future of marketing, and touch on a little bit around AI and how you actually see AI? What's your view on that?
The thing is, AI has been used for a long time, but yeah, just 2 years ago, people the AI was released for the most of us, but AI has been used in the back end for a long time already. So I just see AI as a tool because AI cannot see what's going around in the world and cannot see the real life. So basically, AI just mimics humans, and humans are really unpredictable. So I think I just see AI as a tool. I will not see AI replacing people. I just see AI just creating like better, you know, better results in a short period of time. You just don't need to spend one day doing one like a task, because AI can just kind of boost your productivity. So yeah, I don't see AI as a threat. I see AI just a boosting kind of extra. It's kind of platform for any knowledgeable worker. So that's my take on AI.
Yeah, I've used it, as you know, and I've taken that away from you because I was like, oh, what? I didn't even know what it meant. Artificial intelligence, but I didn't know how to use it, I suppose, is the best way of putting it,
Yeah.
to my advantage. And there's loads of things that I've just found as an efficiency. I'm like, oh my God, that would have took me so long. That's brilliant. So I see it as more of a bit of an office assistant. It's like, oh, I need to do this fast. How do I get around it? It's a great workaround. But I do see lots of people kind of, on certain platforms like LinkedIn, like Instagram, people like AI, it's too advanced, it's going to replace us, it's scary, it's going to, affect the industry, things like this. So I think it's nice to also appreciate a tool, and technology does move so fast. And if it can gain efficiencies, I think you've got to kind of use it for the intent that it was put out there for. So yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. One thing I want to kind of touch on is, yeah, for you personally, there's been a lot of learnings throughout this podcast just right now of, certain tools, upskilling, acronyms, the way of working in marketing. But I know you came into the marketing world from more of an artistic background. So you studied 3D modeling, and you're very artistic and creative in your mindset. And I guess marketing is a natural progression of that, because it is a creative industry, it's a creative workload. But what attracted you from where you were to where you are now, right now? What was that transition?
Yeah, yeah, it was quite not easy. I mean, I had to learn a lot of new tools and stuff, but I think was just natural because was already part of my work to promote my freelance work. I had to do marketing without knowing. So for me, I just had to kind of know the acronyms and more like the the copywriting side of things, the yeah, more like the data side of things also. That's where I had to focus more my skills, like how to read the data, what that data means. And but yeah, as you said, like marketing is is half percent, like 50% data and 50% art. So it's like it's a mix of these two. They don't, it's not like just scientific, because marketing doesn't work in a bubble. So you yeah, it's 50% art and 50% more scientific approach. So yeah, for me was just the other 50%, the more data driven kind of results that I had to, upskill myself. But was a quite smooth transition. Uh, yeah, was just like extension of what I already knew.
Yeah, I think that's what I always like. And I find through doing these podcasts, the amount of people, if not everyone that I've spoken to so far, we don't stand still as humans. The world doesn't stand still, obviously, but also throughout our careers, I think there is, I would say, a large amount of us that transition sometimes quite naturally, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've landed in a slightly different
Yeah,
area than what I thought I would have, and the progression is a lot smoother than what we take or what we originally thought. Let's
yeah,
say it that way. But yeah, I think a lot of people contact me and have that question around, I'm not sure where I want to go. I'm not really happy where I am in my current role. I'm not quite sure how to either get somewhere else, or if I have a fear of trying to switch up my career. So I think the more and more I bring to the forefront different industries and yourself from 3D modeling into the marketing world, which I think you're, from what I know personally as well and what we've spoken about today, you're thriving in, you enjoy it, you're passionate about it. And also I think just highlighting the fact that there is a lot of data, but there is there is a huge part of the creative side in it. So I think, balancing those two, having knowledge of the two is amazing.
yeah.
What have you found when you have, whether it's even through the transitional part or, being in this role for the last several years that have you found as a big kind of challenge? What have been those biggest challenges as a digital marketer? What have they been?
Yes, the challenge is always like the keep updated with the changes in this world, because every what works today doesn't work in 1 year or a few months. So you just need to test a lot, and when you need to have this mindset of testing, and never assume that what you know gonna work in the future, because yeah, you need to have this experimental mindset, because it's always changing, and you are targeting people. So when you targeting people, there is this big unknown, because people is unpredictable. So you just need to really have this mindset of experimental kind of way of doing things, and that's the challenge bit, because you cannot be comfortable. You need to have this the comfort. You cannot be comfortable with yourself, with your skills. You just need to question all the time. Okay, does it make sense to do this way? Let's try other ways, and then being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the main thing that was most challenging.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice, because nothing happens when you sit still. And I think the fact that you put yourself out, yes, it can be scary, and trying something new is the unknown. But like you say, being comfortable, being uncomfortable,
Yeah,
um, sounds a bit special the way you say it, but I completely understand. And I think that's something that scares a lot of people. But once you try it, the feeling of success is amazing. It's like, oh, I didn't know how that was going to go. And it's, yes, that was brilliant. I now know I've got more knowledge under my belt. I'm going to take that and bring it forward to the next thing. And I think keeping going in that direction is something that, yeah, the unknown is exciting. And I think more of us should push to do that. And you're a prime example of keeping yourself updated with what's going on, self-learning, being self-taught, not being afraid to change, not being afraid to try. And I speak about it a lot on here, is the word failure. You know, if something doesn't work, try again, because you learn from those failures of, okay, was the target not right?
Yeah.
You know, did we do something wrong? Because like you say, when you're going out to consumers, the general public, you don't know how somebody's going to react, whether it's, you know, because of what's going on in the environment, because of inflation, because of all these things. However you're going to target somebody about a product, what might work one week might not work the next, because of the, let's say, the white noise around people and how that affects their thinking. So being up to date on all those things is super vital. Anything else that you would give as advice to anybody in the marketing world or wanting to come into it? Anything that you'd say, you know, these are the kind of top tips that I would give, or maybe something you would have done a little bit differently when you were first coming into the marketing world?
Yeah, I think the first advice is just in the beginning become a bit more generalist. So the T-shape kind of skill, basically just learn a bit of everything. For example, Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, whatever, or like print, SEO. So you learn a bit of everything, even like landing page optimization, because it's really important also. Google Analytics, how to read data and stuff. And then as you go along, you just focus on one skill that you feel that you are more useful. I don't know, it's not the right word, useful, but you are like you enjoy more.
Yeah.
Maybe copyright, or just Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever, and then you focus on that. But you need to have like first like a really general kind of knowledge, because you need, like as you said, like marketing is such a broad concept, but you need to understand what's going on in other fields to make sense what you're doing in your own field. So I think is the best advice. And don't try to be like really good at one thing in the beginning. Just try to have like a more broad knowledge of what's going on, and then like key concepts, and then focus in one thing that you're gonna enjoy more. I think that's my advice. And then just like the failure thing that you were speaking about, I think there is no failure, or there is no failure if you learn from the failure. If you learn, there is no failure. It's just like is one step going towards something. So I think that's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of looking at it, and turning the failure into a positive of, you learn from it, as opposed to getting stuck on it and being like, oh, it didn't work and I'm stuck there and that's all I remember from it. It's how you turn it around and understand why and what didn't work, and then adapt it for the next part.
Yeah.
Like move on from here into here. And then I think that's where you find your flow in general, whether it's marketing or whatever, part of
Yeah.
business you're in. Yeah, so definitely I think that's good.
Yeah, that's a mindset to have to have.
Perfect. Well, thank you for talking to me about the world of marketing. I definitely feel a bit more knowledgeable, which is always good for me, and of course for anybody listening. But I also do these podcasts, and part of it is that I can upskill myself, and hopefully the people that I bring to these podcasts, including my husband, it definitely helps support anybody that's in a certain industry or wants to try something or upskill or whatever it may be. So I've enjoyed having you on today. Thank you so much for being my guest. And for anybody listening, if you're enjoying these podcasts, I am trying to mix it up, as you'll have probably heard over the last couple of episodes, through UX, through marketing with Francisco today, through the creative background that I have in fashion. We've had beauty guests on as well. So anything that you would like to hear more of, let me know. I'm trying to cast my net a little bit wider to make sure I'm kind of meeting the requirements. And also, I'm learning, you're learning, we're all learning. That's what life is about. And I always forget this bit, but if you are enjoying it, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube and Spotify, and follow me on my Instagram, which is cora.consultancy. And Francisco, you ready for lunch?